Welcome to Bedtime Whispers, where darkness comes to life and nightmares become reality. Join us on this terrifying journey through the unknown, where every creak and every shadow conceals a terrifying mystery. Here we go. Alex stared at the envelope in their hand, the return address reading the Whispering Gallery. They had heard of the prestigious gallery before. It was known for showcasing the most talented artists from around the world. But Alex had never dreamed they would receive an invitation to work there. With trembling fingers, Alex opened the envelope and pulled out the letter inside. It was short and to the point. The gallery was offering Alex a spot as a student intern with the opportunity to work alongside some of the most talented artists in the world. Alex couldn't believe their luck. Excitement and nerves jumbled together in Alex's stomach as they packed their bags and made the journey to the gallery. As soon as they arrived, however, Alex knew something was off. The building was old and imposing, with intricate carvings covering the exterior. The paintings displayed in the windows seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy, and strange whispers echoed through the air. Alex took a deep breath and pushed open the door, stepping into the gallery's lobby. Maria, the gallery owner's assistant, greeted them with a warm smile. "Welcome to the Whispering Gallery," she said. "We're so glad you're here." Alex tried to shake off the feeling of unease as Maria led them through the gallery. The paintings on the walls seemed to follow them with their eyes, and the whispers grew louder as they moved deeper into the building. But Alex couldn't help but feel drawn to the dark and mysterious power emanating from the artwork. As they reached the end of the gallery, Alex's eyes were drawn to a painting in the corner. It was a portrait of a woman, her eyes dark and intense. Alex couldn't look away, and as they stared into the woman's eyes, something shifted within them. It was as if the painting was alive, and Alex was caught in its web. Maria cleared her throat, interrupting Alex's reverie. "That's Rebecca's work," she said. "She's a bit of a recluse, but her paintings are some of the most powerful in the gallery. You should be careful around her." Alex nodded, unable to tear their eyes away from the painting. They had a feeling that their time at the Whispering Gallery was going to be unlike anything they had ever experienced before. The following day, Maria led Alex to their studio, located in a dark corner of the gallery. The space was cramped and cluttered, with canvases and paints scattered everywhere. But despite the mess, Alex felt an instant connection to the space. As they began to unpack their things, Alex caught sight of a figure in the corner of the room. It was Rebecca, the reclusive artist responsible for the captivating portrait they had seen the day before. Rebecca's features were striking, with sharp cheekbones and piercing green eyes. But there was something off about her, something that made Alex's skin crawl. "Hello, Alex," Rebecca said, her voice as smooth as silk. "I'm glad you've decided to join us." Alex nodded nervously, feeling as though they were in the presence of something dangerous. But Rebecca simply smiled and left the room, leaving Alex alone with their thoughts. Over the next few days, Alex threw themselves into their work. The gallery was bustling with activity, with artists from all over the world working together to create something truly unique. But as the days passed, Alex began to notice something strange happening. Every time they walked past Rebecca's studio, they could hear whispers coming from inside, and whenever they caught sight of her, she seemed to be staring directly at them, her eyes unblinking and intense. Despite the eerie feeling that surrounded Rebecca, Alex found themselves drawn to her work. Her paintings were unlike anything they had ever seen before, with an otherworldly quality that was impossible to ignore. But as their internship at the Whispering Gallery continued, Alex began to realize that there was something deeply unsettling about the space. The whispers grew louder, and the paintings seemed to come to life, their eyes following Alex wherever they went. As Alex delved deeper into the world of the Whispering Gallery, they knew that they were in for a journey unlike anything they had ever experienced before. One evening, Alex was working late in the studio, putting the final touches on a new piece. As they stood back to admire their work, they heard a soft tapping at the door. "Come in," Alex called out, assuming it was Maria or one of the other interns. But as the door creaked open, they saw a figure standing in the doorway. It was Rebecca, her eyes fixed on Alex with an intensity that made them shiver. "Hello, Alex," she said softly. "I wanted to talk to you about your work." Alex hesitated, unsure of what to say. They had always been drawn to Rebecca's paintings, but there was something about her that made them feel uneasy. "I appreciate the offer, but I'm not sure I'm ready to show my work yet," Alex replied. Rebecca's expression didn't change, but Alex could sense a shift in the atmosphere. It was as though something had changed between them, something dangerous. "You have a gift, Alex," Rebecca said, "but you need to be careful. The Whispering Gallery is not what it seems." With that, she turned and left the room, leaving Alex standing alone in the dimly lit studio. As the days passed, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. The whispers in the gallery grew louder, and the paintings seemed to take on a life of their own. And every time they caught sight of Rebecca, she seemed to be watching them, her eyes full of a warning that they couldn't quite understand. Alex knew that they needed to be careful, but as the strange occurrences in the gallery continued, they couldn't help but feel as though they were being drawn deeper and deeper into a world of darkness and mystery. One night, as Alex was working in the studio, they noticed something strange. One of the paintings had shifted slightly, revealing a small crack in the wall behind it. Curiosity getting the better of them, Alex carefully removed the painting and examined the crack. To their surprise, it widened into a small crevice that led to a hidden room. Trembling with excitement, Alex crawled into the space, their heart racing with anticipation. The room was small and cramped, filled with dusty old books and strange artifacts. As they began to explore the room, Alex's attention was drawn to a strange, ornate box sitting in the center of a small table. Something about the box seemed familiar, as though they had seen it somewhere before. Without thinking, Alex reached out and lifted the lid of the box. But as they did, a chill ran down their spine. Inside was a dark, writhing mass of shadows, pulsating with an eerie light. Suddenly, the shadows coalesced into a shape, forming the figure of a woman. It was Rebecca, her eyes fixed on Alex with an intensity that made them want to shrink away. "You should not have come here," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "You have disturbed something that should have been left alone." With that, the shadows dissipated, leaving Alex alone in the darkness. But the warning stayed with them, ringing in their ears long after they had left the hidden room. Alex knew that they needed to be careful, but as the mysteries of the Whispering Gallery continued to unravel, they couldn't help but feel as though they were being drawn inexorably towards a terrifying conclusion. As the days passed, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Everywhere they went, they felt an unseen presence hovering just beyond the edge of their vision. At first, they tried to dismiss it as paranoia, a side effect of the strange events that had been unfolding around them. But as the feeling persisted, growing stronger with each passing day, Alex began to realize that something truly malevolent was at work. One night, as they were walking home from the studio, Alex heard a faint whispering in their ear. They spun around, but there was no one there. The whispering grew louder, insistent, and Alex felt a cold hand brush against their cheek, panic rising in their chest. Alex ran towards home, their heart pounding in their ears. When they finally reached their apartment, they locked the door behind them and collapsed onto the couch, panting. Something was coming for them. Alex could feel it, a creeping sense of dread that coiled round their heart like a serpent. But what could they do? Who could they turn to for help? The police would think they were crazy if they reported the strange events that had been unfolding. And even if they did believe them, what could they do to stop the dark forces that were at work? Alex knew that they were on their own, and as the night deepened and the whispering grew louder, they huddled in their apartment, praying for dawn to come. As the days passed, Alex found it increasingly difficult to focus on their work. The strange events that had been unfolding had taken over their life, consuming their every waking moment. They spent hours poring over old tomes and grimoires, searching for any clue that could help them understand the dark forces at work. But the more they learned, the more terrified they became. It seemed that the Whispering Gallery was not simply a work of art, but a portal to another world. And the shadows that had been haunting Alex were only the first sign of what was to come. But despite the mounting danger, Alex was unable to tear themselves away from the mystery. They had come too far, learned too much to turn back now. And then, one day, everything changed. As Alex was walking home from the studio, they saw something that made their blood run cold. In the distance, they saw Rebecca standing on the corner of the street, watching them with an intense gaze. Before Alex could react, Rebecca turned and disappeared into an alleyway, heart racing. Alex followed her. The alleyway was dark and shadowy, and Alex could feel the presence of something malevolent lurking just beyond the edge of their vision. But they pressed on, driven by a fierce determination to uncover the truth. And then they saw it, a swirling vortex of darkness, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. And standing at its center was Rebecca, her eyes glowing with a mad, unearthly light. "You shouldn't have come here," she whispered, her voice echoing in the darkness. "You have no idea what you've unleashed." With a sudden, blinding flash of light, Alex was thrown backwards, tumbling through the darkness. When they came to, they were lying in the alleyway, bruised and battered, but alive. And as they lay there, gasping for breath, Alex realized that they had paid a terrible price for their knowledge. The darkness was closing in around them, and there was no turning back. Alex awoke the next morning with a sense of dread in their heart. They knew that they were in grave danger, and that they had to act quickly if they hoped to survive. They spent the morning poring over their research, searching for any clue that could help them understand what they were up against. And as they read, a sickening realization began to dawn on them. Rebecca was not human. She was a witch, a creature of darkness, and she had been manipulating them all along. But what did she want? And why had she chosen Alex as her pawn? As they pondered these questions, Alex's thoughts turned to Maria. They missed her terribly, but they knew that they could never go back to her, not now that they had become enmeshed in this dark, otherworldly web. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Alex's heart skipped a beat. They hesitated for a moment, then slowly made their way to the door. When they opened it, they were greeted by a tall, thin man with a gaunt, pale face. He was dressed in black, and his eyes glinted with a cold, malevolent light. "Hello, Alex," he said, his voice low and menacing. "My name is Nathaniel, and I have a message from Rebecca." Alex felt their blood turn to ice. They knew instinctively that this man was not to be trusted. "What does she want?" they asked, trying to keep their voice steady. Nathaniel smiled, revealing a row of sharp, pointed teeth. "She wants you to meet her," he said, "at midnight in the old churchyard, and she warns you, if you don't come, the consequences will be dire." Alex felt a chill run down their spine. They knew that they were walking into a trap, but they had no choice. They had to find out what Rebecca wanted and what she was capable of. As the sun began to set, Alex made their way to the old churchyard. The air was thick with the smell of rot and decay, and they could feel the presence of something dark and malevolent lurking in the shadows. And then they saw her, Rebecca, standing at the edge of the graveyard, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Welcome," "Alex," she said, her voice ringing out through the darkness. "I've been expecting you." Alex took a step forward, their heart pounding in their chest. "What do you want from me?" they asked, their voice barely above a whisper. Rebecca smiled, revealing a row of pointed teeth. "I want you to help me," she said. "Help me open the portal, and together we will usher in a new age of darkness." Alex recoiled at the thought. They had always known that Rebecca was dangerous, but they had never realized the extent of her depravity. "I will never help you," Alex said, their voice trembling with anger. Rebecca's smile faded, replaced by a look of cold fury. "You will do as I say," she hissed, "or you will suffer the consequences." And with that, she vanished into the darkness. Alex stood alone in the graveyard, their heart pounding with fear and confusion. They knew that they were in over their head, but they didn't know how to get out of this mess. As they made their way back to the house, Alex realized that they had to find a way to stop Rebecca. But how? They had no idea where to begin. That night, as they lay in bed, Alex's mind raced with ideas. They knew that they had to act quickly before it was too late, but they didn't know how. And then they remembered something that Maria had told them long ago. "There is power in the earth," Maria had said, her eyes alight with excitement. "The earth is alive, and it has secrets to share. All you have to do is listen." And so, the next morning, Alex set out to find the secret buried deep in the earth. They knew that it was a long shot, but they had to try. They spent the next several days digging and searching, scouring the earth for any clue that could help them stop Rebecca. And then, finally, they found it, a small carved stone, hidden deep in the earth. Alex could feel the power emanating from it, pulsing with an otherworldly energy. And then, suddenly, Alex knew what they had to do. They had to use the power of the earth to stop Rebecca, to close the portal and banish her back to whatever dark realm she came from. With renewed determination, Alex set out to prepare for the final showdown. They knew that they were in for the fight of their life, but they were ready. The witching hour was approaching, and Alex stood ready. They clutched the stone in their hand, feeling its power surge through them. And then she appeared, Rebecca, her eyes alight with a cold, malevolent light. "I knew you would come," she hissed, her voice dripping with venom. But Alex was not afraid. They had the power of the earth on their side, and they were ready to fight. With a fierce battle cry, Alex charged forward, the stone blazing with an otherworldly light. The battle was long and grueling, but in the end, Alex emerged victorious. With one final burst of power, they closed the portal and banished Rebecca back to her own realm. As Alex collapsed to the ground, exhausted but triumphant, they knew that they had triumphed over darkness, and they vowed to never forget the power of the earth and the secrets that it held. Alex spent the next few hours in the library, poring over books on witchcraft and the occult. He was determined to find a way to defeat Rebecca and put an end to the terror that had descended upon the town. He couldn't let her win. As he was deep in thought, he heard the sound of footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw Maria standing there, looking at him with concern. "Alex, what are you doing here? I've been looking for you everywhere," she said. "I needed to do some research. I think I may have found a way to stop Rebecca," Alex replied. Maria looked skeptical. "Are you sure about this? We don't even know what we're dealing with." "I know, but I have to try. People are dying, Maria. We can't just sit back and do nothing." Maria nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Okay, what do you need me to do?" "I need you to come with me to the old church on the outskirts of town. There's something there that might help us." Maria hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, let's go." They left the library and drove to the church, which was situated on a desolate hill overlooking the town. As they entered the church, Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. The air was thick with the scent of incense, and candles flickered in the darkness. They made their way to the altar, where Alex pulled out a small leather-bound book from his bag. He began to read from it in a language that Maria didn't understand. As he spoke, the candles flickered more violently and the temperature in the room dropped. Suddenly, there was a loud bang and the doors to the church burst open. Rebecca stood in the doorway, a wicked grin on her face. "I see you found my little hideaway," she said, stepping into the church. "But it's too late for you now. I have other plans for you." Alex and Maria stood frozen, not knowing what to do. They had walked right into Rebecca's trap, and now there was no way out. Rebecca stepped closer to Alex and Maria, a look of malice in her eyes. "You thought you could defeat me. You're nothing but ants to me," she sneered. Alex took a step forward, holding up the leather-bound book. "We know how to stop you, Rebecca. We have the power to defeat you." Rebecca left a cold, chilling sound. "You think that book can save you? You're nothing but fools." She raised her hand and the candles flickered out, plunging the church into complete darkness. Alex and Maria could hear her moving towards them, but they couldn't see her. Suddenly, Maria felt a hand grab her shoulder. She screamed and stumbled backwards, tripping over a pew. Alex reached out to catch her, but he too was knocked off balance. As they fell to the ground, they heard Rebecca's voice whisper in their ears, "I warned you not to cross me. Now you'll pay the price." Alex fumbled in his bag, searching for a flashlight. He finally found one and turned it on, shining it around the church. He saw Rebecca standing in the corner, her eyes glowing in the darkness. He stood up, holding the book tightly. "We won't let you win, Rebecca. We'll stop you, no matter what." Rebecca smiled coldly. "We'll see about that." With a flick of her wrist, she sent a bolt of energy towards Alex. He managed to dodge it, but Maria was hit square in the chest. She screamed in agony as the energy coursed through her body. Alex ran to her side, but it was too late. Maria was dead. Tears streamed down Alex's face as he looked up at Rebecca. "You'll pay for this, Rebecca. I swear it." Rebecca just left, disappearing into the darkness. Alex was left alone in the church, holding Maria's lifeless body. He knew that he had to finish what they had started. He had to stop Rebecca, no matter what the cost. Alex sat in the church, holding Maria's lifeless body. He couldn't believe she was gone. They had come so far together, and now she was gone. He knew he couldn't stay there for long. Rebecca was still out there, and she had to be stopped. He stood up, cradling Maria's body in his arms. He had to find a way to bring her back. He remembered the book. Maybe there was a spell in there that could bring her back to life. He flipped through the pages, searching desperately for something that could help him. As he read through the book, he came across a passage that caught his eye. It was a spell to bring back the dead. He knew he had to try it. He gathered the materials he needed and went back to the church. He set up a circle of candles around Maria's body and began to chant the spell. At first, nothing happened. Alex felt a sinking feeling in his stomach. Had he failed? Had he lost Maria forever? But then he felt a faint pulse in her chest. He kept chanting, pouring all his energy into the spell. Slowly, Maria's eyes fluttered open. Alex let out a sigh of relief. She was alive, but as he looked into her eyes, he could see something was different. Something was wrong. Maria sat up, looking around the church in confusion. "What happened?" she asked. Alex hesitated, not sure how to explain it. "You died, but I brought you back." Maria looked at him, a mixture of fear and confusion in her eyes. "What did you do?" Alex shook his head, unable to find the words. He just knew that they had to finish what they had started. They had to stop Rebecca once and for all. Together, they left the church, determined to find Rebecca and end this once and for all. Alex and Maria walked through the dark streets of the town, their hearts racing with fear and anticipation. They knew that they were getting closer to Rebecca, but they had no idea what awaited them. As they turned a corner, they saw a figure standing in front of them. It was Rebecca, and she was holding something in her hand. Alex and Maria stopped in their tracks, unsure of what to do. Rebecca looked different than the last time they saw her. Her eyes were glowing, and her skin looked pale and sickly. "You've come a long way to stop me," Rebecca said, her voice low and menacing. "But it's too late. You can't stop what's already been set in motion." Alex stepped forward, his fists clenched. "We'll stop you," he said, his voice filled with determination. Rebecca laughed. "You really think you can?" she said. "You don't know the power that I possess." She held out her hand, and a blast of energy shot towards Alex and Maria. They dove to the ground, narrowly avoiding the attack. Alex got to his feet, ready to fight. But before he could do anything, he heard a voice behind him. Stop. It was one of the minor characters they had met earlier in their journey. She had a look of fear on her face, but she stood her ground. Don't fight her, she said. It's what she wants. There's another way to stop her. Alex and Maria looked at each other, unsure of what to do. But they knew they had to listen. What do we do? Alex asked. The woman looked at them, her eyes filled with hope. There's a way to reverse the spell, she said, but we have to do it together. Alex and Maria nodded, knowing that this was their only chance. They joined hands with the woman, closing their eyes and focusing all their energy on the task at hand. As they chanted the spell, they felt a surge of power flow through their bodies. They knew that they were doing something right. Suddenly, there was a blinding flash of light, and everything went black. When Alex opened his eyes, he found himself lying on the ground. He groaned, trying to sit up, but he felt weak and disoriented. Maria, he called out, his voice barely a whisper. There was no response. Alex looked around, his eyes adjusting to the darkness. He saw that he was in a forest, surrounded by trees and undergrowth. He tried to stand up, but his legs buckled, and he fell back to the ground. He lay there for a few moments, trying to catch his breath. Then he heard a rustling in the bushes nearby. He looked up, his heart racing with fear, but what he saw surprised him. It was Maria. She was alive, and she was walking towards him. Alex struggled to his feet, tears of relief streaming down his face. Maria, he shouted, running towards her. She met him halfway, and they embraced each other tightly. We did it, Maria said, her voice filled with wonder. Alex nodded, unable to speak. He felt like a weight had been lifted from his shoulders, like a burden he didn't even know he was carrying had been lifted. As they stood there, lost in the moment, Alex felt a strange sensation in the back of his mind. It was like a voice, distant and faint, calling out to him. He tried to ignore it, but it persisted, growing louder and more insistent. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. What is that? He asked Maria, pointing to his head. Maria looked at him, her eyes wide with fear. It's her, she said, her voice trembling. Rebecca. Alex felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He knew that they weren't out of danger yet. Rebecca was still out there, and she was still powerful. We have to keep moving, Alex said, his voice firm. We have to find a way to stop her for good. Maria nodded, her face set in determination. I'm with you, she said, and with that, they set off into the darkness, their hearts filled with hope and fear, unsure of what lay ahead. As they walked, Alex and Maria talked about everything that had happened to them. From the moment they arrived in town to the present, they tried to piece together what Rebecca's plan was, but there were still too many missing pieces. I don't understand why she needs us, Alex said, frustration creeping into his voice. She's a powerful witch. She could have done whatever she wanted without us. Maria shrugged. Maybe it's part of some kind of ritual, she suggested. Or maybe she just wants to toy with us. Alex nodded, not satisfied with the answer but not having any better ideas. They walked for what felt like hours, their progress slow and cautious. Alex's head still throbbed with pain, and Maria's ankle was swollen and painful. As they walked, they heard strange sounds in the darkness, whispers, rustling, and the occasional shriek. They tried to ignore them, but the sounds grew louder and more frequent, filling them with a sense of dread. Finally, they came to a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a large stone altar, surrounded by candles and strange symbols. Alex and Maria approached the altar cautiously, their eyes darting around, looking for any signs of danger. As they got closer, they saw a figure standing on the other side of the altar. It was Rebecca. She was dressed in a long black robe, her hair wild and unkempt. Her eyes glowed with an eerie light, and her lips were twisted into a cruel smile. "Welcome," she said, her voice like a hiss. "I've been expecting you." Alex and Maria stepped back, their hands shaking with fear. Rebecca laughed. "Don't be afraid," she said. "You're just in time for the final act of my little play. What do you want from us?" Alex demanded, his voice shaking with anger. Rebecca's smile grew wider. "You'll see," she said, "all in good time." And with that, she raised her arms and began to chant. The symbols on the altar began to glow, and the candles flickered and danced. Alex and Maria watched in horror as a dark, shapeless form began to emerge from the altar. It writhed and twisted, growing larger and more terrifying with each passing moment. "What is that?" Maria gasped. Rebecca turned to them, her eyes alight with madness. "That, my dears," she said, "is the end of everything." As Alex made his way back to the hotel, his mind was racing with thoughts of the impending confrontation with Rebecca. He knew that he needed to be prepared for whatever she had in store for him, but he couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled in his stomach. When he arrived back at the hotel, he found Maria waiting for him in the lobby. She looked up as he approached and gave him a small smile. "Hey, are you ready for this?" she asked. Alex took a deep breath and nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be." Maria took his hand and gave it a reassuring squeeze. "Let's go." They made their way up to the penthouse suite, and Alex took a deep breath before knocking on the door. It swung open to reveal Rebecca standing on the other side, a wicked smile on her face. "I've been waiting for you," she said, her voice dripping with malice. Alex felt a shiver run down his spine as he stepped into the room. He could feel the weight of Rebecca's gaze on him as he walked across the room, Maria at his side. "Are you ready to face your destiny?" Rebecca asked, Her eyes locked on Alex. He swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry. "I'm ready," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Rebecca let out a low, throaty laugh. "Good," she said, "because I have been waiting for this moment for a very long time." With that, she raised her hands and a blinding light filled the room. Alex felt a surge of power wash over him, and he knew that this was it. The final battle. For what seemed like an eternity, Alex and Rebecca traded blows, their powers evenly matched. But as the fight wore on, Alex began to feel his strength waning. He knew that he couldn't keep this up much longer. Just as he was about to give up, Maria stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I'm with you," she said, her voice firm and unwavering. With Maria at his side, Alex felt a surge of strength and renewed determination. Together, they faced off against Rebecca, their combined power overwhelming her in the end. As Rebecca fell to the ground, defeated, Alex and Maria embraced each other, the weight of their ordeal finally lifting from their shoulders. "We did it," Maria said, a smile spreading across her face. Alex nodded, his heart full of gratitude for the woman he loved. "We did it," he repeated, his voice filled with wonder. As they left the penthouse suite and made their way back down to the lobby, Alex knew that he would never forget the horrors they had faced together. But he also knew that he would always be grateful for the love and support of Maria, the one person who had helped him face his fears and emerge victorious. Thank you so much for your attention. Subscribe to the channel. See you soon.